What if everything you thought you knew about the Lion King was just scratching the surface? The Pride Land's greatest secret isn't hidden in some shadowy cave or whispered legend. It's been right in front of us, woven into the very fabric of every character, every story arc, and every pivotal moment in the franchise. A hidden truth so fundamental that once you see it, you'll never watch these beloved films the same way again. The Lion King universe isn't just telling stories about lions and the circle of life. It's secretly been exploring the power of what I call the golden middle. Characters who balance perfectly between extremes, who find harmony where others see only opposition, who master the delicate art of standing between worlds. Look closely at Kovu's journey, raised in hatred, trained for vengeance, yet capable of profound love. His very design straddles two worlds, the sharp, angular features of the Outlanders softened just enough to suggest redemption, his coloration positioning him visually between Scar's darkness and Simba's light. He isn't fully one or the other, and that's precisely why he becomes so pivotal. And what about Kiara, the daughter who bridges the divide between warring prides, who sees beyond hatred where even her father cannot? "We are one," she declares, not erasing differences but embracing them in perfect balance. Honestly, this pattern repeats again and again throughout the entire Lion King saga. And once you understand this code, this golden middle, suddenly character designs, plot developments, and even seemingly minor scenes take on profound new significance. Consider Rafiki for a moment, the ultimate balancer, half-wise shaman, half-playful trickster, capable of solemn ritual and mischievous laughter in the same scene, neither fully serious nor fully comedic, but perfectly balanced between worlds. It's no coincidence that he's the character who guides others to their destiny, because he embodies the franchise's hidden philosophy. Let's face it, we've been misunderstanding The Lion King all along. We've seen it as a story of good versus evil, of rightful kings versus usurpers. But what if it's actually telling us something much more sophisticated? That true wisdom, true leadership, true harmony comes from balance. The evidence is hiding in plain sight, even in the character we think we know best, Simba. His journey isn't simply about reclaiming his throne. It's about finding balance between responsibility and freedom, between honoring tradition and forging his own path. His famous Hakuna Matata phase isn't just a detour, it's a necessary extreme he must experience before finding his center. And have you ever noticed how characters who reject balance inevitably face downfall? Scar's refusal to find harmony with his pride, his obsession with power at all costs. Zira's single-minded hatred that ultimately leads to her plunge into raging waters. These aren't just villains, they're cautionary tales about the dangers of extremism. But this pattern goes far deeper than we've recognized. It extends beyond the original films into The Lion Guard, where Keon's entire character arc revolves around mastering balance between the fierce power of the roar and the wisdom to know when not to use it. What if Disney has been secretly teaching us the power of balance all along? Think about it. Even Keon's guard itself breaks traditional expectations. Not all lions, but representatives of diverse species working in harmony. Yet another embodiment of the golden middle philosophy. The more I look, the more I see this pattern everywhere. The visual language of the films themselves tells the story, from color palettes that blend warm golds with cool shadows, to compositions that constantly juxtapose height and depth, Pride Rock, and the expansive savanna. Come on, it's too consistent to be coincidence. The Lion King saga has been crafted around this philosophy from the very beginning, but almost nobody has pieced it together. Until now. Because as we dive deeper into this theory, we're going to uncover how this principle of the golden middle doesn't just explain character arcs, it reveals Disney's entire narrative strategy. It unlocks hidden meanings in scenes you've watched dozens of times. It predicts future developments in the franchise with astonishing accuracy. And most importantly, it completely transforms how we understand the message at the heart of The Lion King. Are you ready to see these beloved films through new eyes? Because once I show you the full pattern, I promise you'll never look at The Lion King the same way again. But first, we need to understand where this pattern began. To truly understand the golden middle concept that defines the Lion King universe, we need to go back to the beginning, not just of the first film, but of the franchise's entire philosophy. From the opening moments of the original Lion King, balance is presented as the fundamental principle of life itself. The iconic Circle of Life sequence isn't just a beautiful introduction, it's a declaration of the film's core philosophy. Everything exists in delicate equilibrium, predator and prey, life and passing, growth and decay. But this principle goes far beyond ecological harmony. It defines every major character relationship in the saga. Let's examine the most iconic relationship in Lion King lore, Mufasa and Scar. These brothers represent opposing extremes in virtually every way. Mufasa embodies selfless leadership, physical strength, and tradition. Scar represents self-interest, intellectual cunning, and rejection of tradition. Their visual designs reinforce this dichotomy, Mufasa's warm golden hues versus Scar's shadowy greens and blacks. But here's what most viewers miss. Neither character actually represents the ideal Lion King philosophy. Mufasa, for all his nobility, is too rigid in his adherence to tradition. He fails to address the hyena problem beyond simply enforcing boundaries. He maintains stability, but not true harmony. Meanwhile, Scar swings to the opposite extreme, rejecting all responsibility, pursuing power without purpose, creating a reign so imbalanced that the Pride Lands literally wither under his rule. The destruction of the Pride Lands isn't just dramatic storytelling, it's visual symbolism of what happens when balance is lost. This pattern of opposing forces continues throughout the franchise. Simba initially veers from one extreme to another, from the cub who can't wait to be king to the adult who refuses to be king at all. His character development isn't simply about accepting responsibility. It's about finding the middle ground between duty and personal freedom. Consider how Timon and Pumbaa represent another extreme complete rejection of responsibility. Their problem-free philosophy seems appealing, but ultimately proves unsustainable. Yet they too contribute valuable wisdom that Simba must integrate rather than reject entirely. The golden middle isn't about compromise, it's about transcendence. This becomes even clearer in The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. Simba, having found his own balance, now struggles with overprotectiveness, swinging back toward an extreme. Meanwhile, Zira represents hatred in its purest form, her entire existence defined by vengeance. Between these forces stand Kiara and Kovu, the ultimate golden middle characters. What makes these two so significant isn't simply that they fall in love across enemy lines. It's that they each embody balance within themselves. Kiara balances royal privilege with common compassion. Kovu balances fighting prowess with emotional vulnerability. Their union isn't just romantically satisfying, it's philosophically perfect. Let's face it, this pattern is too consistent to be accidental. And when we extend our analysis to the Lion Guard, it becomes even more evident. Kion's entire journey revolves around finding balance between tremendous power, the roar of the elders, and wise leadership. His guard itself represents balance among different species and abilities. When he loses this balance, when the venom affects his judgment, harmony is immediately threatened. The most telling evidence comes from character downfalls. Look at what happens to characters who reject balance. Scar's obsessive jealousy leads to his demise. Zira's inability to relinquish hatred results in her plunge into raging waters. Even secondary antagonists like Janja or Makucha meet defeat precisely because they pursue single-minded goals without balance. Conversely, characters who embrace balance thrive. Rafiki's enduring wisdom comes from balancing mysticism with practicality. Nala combines fierce hunting skills with diplomatic leadership. Mufasa's spirit continues to guide precisely because his wisdom has evolved beyond his living limitations. But the visual storytelling reveals even more. Disney's animators use color theory brilliantly to reinforce this philosophy. Notice how balanced characters often feature complementary colors. Simba's golden fur against his reddish mane, Kion's similar palette, but with the addition of the guard's mark. Characters who lack balance tend toward monochromatic designs, Scar's dark palette, Zira's tanned monotones. Even the Pride Lands themselves reflect this principle. Pride Rock stands as the ultimate golden middle, neither fully earth nor fully sky, but the perfect fusion of both. It's no coincidence that pivotal moments occur on this literal middle ground between realms. The music reinforces this pattern as well. Hans Zimmer's score alternates between opposing musical themes, triumphant brass versus ominous strings, traditional African rhythms versus Western orchestration. The most powerful moments come when these elements find harmony together rather than dominating each other. Now ask yourself, why would Disney build an entire franchise around this philosophy? The answer lies deeper than simple storytelling. The Lion King draws heavily from cultural traditions that value balance, from Shakespeare, often misunderstood as simply being about good versus evil, to African spiritual traditions that emphasize harmony with nature and community. But to fully grasp how revolutionary this approach is, we need to examine the evidence more directly. Because what I'm about to show you will transform your understanding of characters you thought you knew completely. Can you see the pattern forming now? The golden middle isn't just a theme, it's the skeleton key that unlocks the deepest meaning of the Lion King saga. And once you understand how deliberately this philosophy has been woven into the franchise, you'll start to see something truly astonishing. Now that we understand the philosophical foundation, let's examine the specific evidence that proves the golden middle isn't just a recurring theme, it's the intentional design principle behind the Lion King franchise. I've identified patterns so consistent across characters, visuals, and storylines that they can't possibly be coincidence. Let's start with the most obvious golden middle character, Kovu. His very appearance is meticulously designed to visually represent balance between extremes. Notice how Kovu's color palette blends elements from both Pridelanders and Outlanders. His fur is darker than typical Pridelanders like Simba, yet lighter than the ashen tones of Outlanders like Nuka. His mane contains both black, like Scar, and reddish-brown, like Simba, elements. Even his physique balances sleek Outlander features with the more robust Pridelander build. But his design contains an even more telling detail, the scar across his eye. While superficially similar to Scar's marking, there's a crucial difference. Kovu's scar forms a different shape and was inflicted not as punishment for evil, like Scar's original wound from his father, but as punishment for showing compassion. It's a visual paradox, the same symbol with opposite meaning, perfectly embodying the golden middle concept. His name itself signals this duality. Kovu means scar in Swahili, linking him to the villain, yet his character arc leads him toward heroism. He is literally named after the mark that should define him, yet he ultimately defines himself beyond it. Examine his dialogue patterns as well. Early in the film, he speaks in short, harsh sentences reflecting his Outlander upbringing. As he finds balance, his speech incorporates more nuanced expressions of emotion and connection. By the film's conclusion, his dialogue balances determination with compassion, neither weak nor harsh, but perfectly centered. Now let's look at Kiara, whose entire character arc revolves around finding middle ground. Unlike many Disney princesses defined by singular traits, Kiara balances multiple qualities. She is simultaneously playful and responsible, independent and connected to her family, traditional in her royal role yet progressive in her willingness to challenge boundaries. Her pivotal line, "We are one," isn't just a callback to her father's lesson. It's the most explicit statement of the golden middle philosophy in the entire franchise. Note how this phrase appears at three crucial moments. When Simba first teaches it to young Kiara, incompletely understanding it himself, when Kiara reminds Simba of it during her rebellion, still grasping for its meaning, and finally when she declares it to end the Pride War, fully embodying its truth. This changes everything. These parallels aren't merely stylistic choices. They represent a deliberate visual language used consistently throughout the franchise to identify characters who will be pivotal to restoring harmony. Let's analyze Kion next. As the leader of the Lion Guard, his entire existence centers on balance. Consider his unique position. He's neither the heir to the throne, Kiara's role, nor free from royal responsibility. He occupies the perfect middle ground, with enough authority to lead but not so much that he becomes isolated like a king. The roar of the elders itself is the ultimate symbol of balance. It's immensely powerful yet requires tremendous restraint. When Kion loses this balance, either by refusing to use the roar out of fear or by using it in anger, chaos ensues. His entire character journey revolves around mastering this middle path. His guard's composition reinforces this principle. Rather than all lions, tradition, or all different species, revolution, it balances one lion with diverse representatives, the perfect middle path between homogeneity and complete diversity. Kion even physically represents balance through his design. His mane is neither fully grown, adult, nor absent, cub. It's in the transitional adolescent stage, visually placing him between childhood and adulthood. His mark of the guard appears on one shoulder, creating asymmetry that is nevertheless harmonious within his overall design. What about Rafiki? This seemingly eccentric character is actually one of the most perfect embodiments of balance in the franchise. Analyze his behavior patterns. He shifts seamlessly between wisdom and folly, between spiritual ritual and physical comedy. He lives neither in the Pride Lands proper nor completely apart from them, instead occupying a baobab tree at the border, literally a middle ground. His staff represents this duality. It's both a spiritual tool and a physical weapon, depending on the need. But the evidence extends beyond characters to entire plot structures. Notice how the most pivotal scenes in the franchise occur at threshold locations, places that exist between worlds. Simba's transformation happens at the border between jungle and desert. Kiara and Kovu's love blossoms in the neutral territory between prides. Kion's most important trials occur at boundary locations like gorges, rivers, and borderlands. Even the villains prove this rule through their failure to find balance. Scar's intellect without compassion leads to his downfall. Zira's dedication without flexibility results in her end. Janja's hunger without restraint ultimately requires his redemption. The pattern is unmistakable. Characters who reject the golden middle cannot sustain their paths. The music underscores this philosophy as well. The most powerful musical moments blend opposing elements. African vocals with Western orchestration, traditional instruments with modern composition techniques. He Lives in You literally describes the balance between past and present, absence and presence. Examine the recurring visual motifs: reflections in water, duality in unity, stars against the night sky, light in darkness, Pride Rock itself, earth reaching toward sky. These aren't just beautiful images, they're consistent symbolic representations of balance. The franchise's philosophical core finds its most explicit expression in the concept of the circle of life. This isn't just about ecological balance, it's about the harmonic integration of opposing forces: life and passing, growth and decay, individual and community, past and future, all existing not in conflict but in complementary harmony. What if I told you this philosophy has deep roots in African traditions that influence the franchise? Many African cultures emphasize finding harmony between seemingly opposed forces: the material and spiritual, individual and communal, tradition and innovation. The Lion King doesn't just borrow African imagery, it incorporates these philosophical principles at its core. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. When we examine more recent additions to the franchise, like the live-action remake or the Mufasa, the Lion King film, we see the same pattern continuing. The visual language of balance remains, suggesting this isn't just a theme from the original creative team, it's the fundamental DNA of the Lion King universe. Consider how the recent films expand on characters' backstories. They consistently show how characters either found their balance or lost it. Mufasa's origin reveals his journey from orphaned cub to wise king. Another story of finding the golden middle between vulnerability and strength, between loss and leadership. Now ask yourself this question. If the golden middle truly is the core philosophical principle of the franchise, what does that tell us about how we should interpret these beloved stories? Because the more deeply we examine this pattern, the more we realize that The Lion King isn't just entertainment. It's a sophisticated exploration of how balance creates harmony, how the middle path leads to wisdom, and how integration rather than elimination of differences creates true strength. But to fully understand the implications of this discovery, we need to look at how the golden middle connects to something even larger, something that transforms our understanding not just of The Lion King, but of storytelling itself. The golden middle principle we've discovered in The Lion King doesn't exist in isolation. What if I told you this philosophy extends far beyond the Pride Lands, revealing a hidden pattern that connects characters and stories across the Disney universe in ways we never imagined? Let's step back and consider something remarkable. Disney's most enduring heroes consistently embody this balance between extremes. They aren't defined by singular traits but by their ability to harmonize seemingly contradictory qualities. This pattern reveals a profound truth about heroism itself. Consider how Simba's journey parallels other Disney protagonists. Like Moana, he must balance tradition, returning to Pride Rock, with innovation, a new leadership approach. Like Elsa, he struggles between duty and personal freedom. Like Aladdin, he navigates between two worlds, the carefree existence with Timon and Pumbaa, and the responsibilities of kingship. But the Lion King franchise articulates this philosophy with unparalleled clarity and consistency. It doesn't just show characters finding balance, it makes the golden middle the explicit moral core of its universe. Look at how the antagonists are characterized across the franchise. Unlike many Disney villains who are simply evil, Lion King antagonists are specifically unbalanced. Scar isn't just cruel, he represents intellect divorced from compassion, ambition without responsibility. Zira isn't just hateful, she embodies unwavering dedication without the capacity for growth or change. Even secondary antagonists follow this pattern. Janja initially represents hunger without restraint. Makucha embodies strength without wisdom. Their redemption arcs consistently involve finding their own form of balance rather than simply being defeated. But here's where the connection becomes truly astonishing. When we examine characters who successfully navigate between extremes, we discover they share specific visual and narrative markers. These balance signifiers appear across multiple Disney properties, but are most clearly articulated in the Lion King franchise. Consider the following pattern. Characters who achieve perfect balance often bear physical marks of their journey. Simba's ruffled mane after his battle with Scar, Kovu's scar, Kian's mark of the guard. Their character arcs typically involve a literal journey between different territories. Simba between Pride Lands and Jungle, Kiara crossing boundaries to find Kovu, Kian traveling to the Tree of Life. They regularly receive wisdom from spiritual guides who themselves embody balance. Rafiki for Simba, Mufasa's spirit for both Simba and Kian, Queen Jana for Kian. Their moments of greatest triumph don't involve defeating enemies, but unifying opposing forces. Simba's reclamation of Pride Rock brings together his jungle wisdom and royal responsibility. Kiara's "We Are One" speech unites the prides. This changes everything. These balance signifiers create a hidden language within Disney storytelling that identifies true heroes not by their power or perfection, but by their capacity to harmonize opposites. The implications are profound. Rather than simple hero-villain dichotomies, the Lion King franchise presents a more nuanced view. Those who find balance bring life, those who reject it bring destruction to themselves and others. Let's look at a surprising example, Zazu. Initially appearing as comic relief, Zazu actually represents crucial balance within the Pride Lands governance. He balances Mufasa's authority with practical concerns, tradition with daily reality. His capture under Scar symbolizes the rejection of this administrative balance, contributing to the kingdom's collapse. His role is subtle but vital. Without his mediating influence, rulers become either detached, like Mufasa occasionally was, or tyrannical, like Scar. His restoration under Simba's reign represents the return of balanced governance. But the most compelling evidence comes from the franchise's treatment of redemption. Unlike many stories where villains are simply defeated, The Lion King repeatedly shows antagonists finding their own form of balance. Kovu rejects Zira's extremism. Janja eventually joins Jasiri's clan. Even the hyenas ultimately turn against Scar when his self-interest becomes too extreme. This suggests something revolutionary about the franchise's underlying philosophy. Evil isn't an inherent quality, but an imbalance that can be corrected. Harmony isn't achieved by eliminating opposition, but by integrating it into a greater whole. Now consider how this reshapes our understanding of the franchise's most iconic moments. Mufasa's famous, "We are all connected in the great circle of life" speech isn't just beautiful rhetoric. It's the explicit statement of this balanced worldview. The circle of life itself represents perfect balance. Predator and prey, life and passing, growth and decay, all in harmonious equilibrium. When Simba returns to challenge Scar, his victory isn't simply about rightful succession. It's about restoring balance to a kingdom thrown into chaos by extremism. The rejuvenation of the Pride Lands following his victory isn't just a happy ending. It's visual confirmation of the Golden Middle philosophy's truth. But here's where our discovery leads to a startling revelation. If the Golden Middle truly is the organizing principle of the Lion King universe, then our understanding of the franchise's central conflict has been incomplete all along. The true struggle isn't between good and evil, or between rightful and wrongful rulers. The real conflict is between balance and extremism, between integration and division, between those who can harmonize opposing forces and those who can only see contradiction. This philosophical foundation connects the Lion King to much older storytelling traditions, from Eastern concepts of yin and yang to indigenous African worldviews that emphasize harmony between seemingly opposed forces. What if Disney deliberately chose this sophisticated philosophical approach for what would become one of their most successful franchises? And what if understanding this hidden pattern allows us to predict the future direction of the Lion King storytelling with remarkable accuracy? Because when we examine the newest additions to the franchise through this lens, we see the pattern continuing and evolving. The Mufasa film further explores how balance is achieved not just within individuals, but between them. How complementary strengths create harmony that no single approach could achieve alone. But this discovery leads us to an even more profound question. If the Golden Middle is indeed the key to understanding the Lion King, how does it transform our perception of the franchise's ultimate message? What is Disney really trying to teach us through these beloved characters and their journeys? And perhaps most importantly, what does this hidden philosophy reveal about our own world and the challenges we face in it? Because the answer to that question might be the most surprising revelation of all, Understanding the golden middle as the core philosophy of The Lion King doesn't just transform how we view the franchise, it reveals profound implications for storytelling, cultural representation, and even our approach to real-world challenges. Let's begin by acknowledging something remarkable. The Lion King isn't just entertaining us, it's teaching a sophisticated philosophical approach to life itself, one that rejects simplistic binary thinking in favor of nuanced balance. This approach has deep roots in African wisdom traditions. Many African cultures embrace philosophical concepts that mirror the golden middle. The Akan concept of Sankofa, looking to the past while moving forward, perfectly captures the balance between tradition and progress that defines Simba's journey. The widespread African emphasis on community harmony reflects the "we are one" philosophy articulated by Kiara. Even the visual language of the franchise draws from these traditions. The baobab tree, Rafiki's home, is considered sacred in many African cultures precisely because it balances opposing qualities. It appears to grow upside down, with roots reaching toward the sky. It stores water within its trunk despite thriving in arid environments. It lives for thousands of years, yet constantly renews itself. When Disney incorporated these elements, they weren't simply borrowing exotic imagery. They were adopting sophisticated philosophical systems. Consider how differently The Lion King presents leadership compared to Western monarchical traditions. Simba doesn't rule through divine right or military might, but through his ability to maintain harmony among diverse groups, from lions to various prey species. His authority comes not from dominance but from balance. This perspective transforms how we understand even minor characters in the franchise. Take Zazu, for instance. In Western storytelling traditions, he might be merely comic relief or a bureaucratic obstacle. But through the lens of the golden middle, he represents crucial administrative balance, the practical implementation of lofty ideals, the day-to-day maintenance of harmony. The implications extend to how we interpret character development across the franchise. Simba's growth isn't simply about accepting responsibility, it's about integrating seemingly contradictory aspects of himself. The carefree cub and the responsible king, his father's legacy, and his own identity, justice, and mercy. Kion's journey follows a similar pattern. His challenges with the roar represent the struggle to balance tremendous power with restraint, authority with humility, fierce protection with gentle wisdom. This framework even reshapes our understanding of the franchise's most controversial elements. Take Scar's reign, for example. His primary failure isn't cruelty or usurpation, it's creating fundamental imbalance. He elevates hyenas without establishing new harmony, pursues self-interest at the expense of the community, prioritizes immediate gratification over sustainable management. The resulting environmental collapse isn't just dramatic storytelling, it's the logical consequence of rejecting balance. What makes this perspective so valuable is its applicability beyond fiction. In a world increasingly defined by polarization, the golden middle offers a sophisticated alternative. Not compromise that weakens both sides, but transcendence that integrates the valuable aspects of opposing viewpoints into something stronger than either alone. When Kiara declares "we are one," she isn't erasing differences between the prides. She's recognizing how their distinct strengths could complement each other if hostility were abandoned. This isn't naive idealism, but practical wisdom. This changes everything. The Lion King isn't just entertaining us with talking animals, it's presenting a philosophical framework for navigating complex challenges through balance rather than dominance. This revelation helps us predict the future direction of the franchise with remarkable accuracy. New editions will likely continue exploring how characters find their own unique balance, how seemingly opposed forces can be harmonized, and how true strength comes from integration rather than elimination of differences. The evidence is already emerging in recent and upcoming content. The Mufasa film explores his journey from orphaned cub to wise king, another story of finding balance between vulnerability and strength, between loss and leadership. The pattern continues, suggesting this isn't just thematic coincidence, but intentional philosophical foundation. But perhaps the most profound implication is how this perspective transforms our relationship with these beloved stories. When we recognize that characters like Simba, Kiara, Kovu, and Kion aren't simply fighting external enemies but navigating the universal challenge of finding balance, their journeys become more personally relevant. We're not just watching lions. We're witnessing the dramatization of our own struggle to harmonize competing aspects of ourselves and our communities. This framework helps explain why The Lion King has resonated so deeply across cultures and generations. It's not just the stunning animation or memorable music, It's the sophisticated yet accessible philosophical core that speaks to universal human experiences. The golden middle also illuminates why certain scenes have become culturally iconic. When Rafiki helps Simba communicate with Mufasa's spirit, he's literally helping him integrate past and present, absence and presence, loss and continuity. When Kiara stands between warring prides, she physically embodies the middle ground between extremes. When Kion masters the roar through restraint rather than aggression, he demonstrates how true power comes from balance. Even the franchise's most visually stunning moments reflect this philosophy. The restoration of the Pride Lands following Simba's return isn't just environmental recovery, it's visual confirmation that balance brings life. The "We Are One" sequence with rain uniting the prides isn't just beautiful imagery, it's symbolic affirmation that harmony emerges when opposing forces find their balance. This perspective adds new depth to familiar scenes. When young Simba practices his roar against a chameleon, he's actually demonstrating his imbalance using power without purpose or restraint. When Nala pins Simba during their reunion, she's physically demonstrating the balance of power in their relationship, neither dominated nor submissive. When Rafiki cracks Simba on the head with his staff, he's literally bringing him back to center to balance. Let's face it, this discovery doesn't diminish our enjoyment of these beloved films, it enriches it. Recognizing the sophisticated philosophy woven into The Lion King allows us to appreciate it on multiple levels simultaneously, as entertainment, as cultural representation, and as philosophical exploration. But it also raises profound questions about our own approach to life's challenges. If the golden middle truly is as powerful as The Lion King suggests, how might we apply this approach to our own lives? How can we find balance between tradition and progress, between individual needs and community responsibility, between strength and compassion? The franchise doesn't provide simplistic answers to these questions, but it does offer guidance through its characters' journeys. Simba teaches us that balance requires integration of past wisdom with present reality. Kiara shows how seeing beyond surface differences reveals underlying unity. Kion demonstrates how true power comes from restraint as much as strength. These aren't just entertaining stories, they're sophisticated guides to navigating life's complexities. And perhaps that's the most remarkable aspect of The Lion King's enduring appeal. Beneath the stunning animation and memorable music lies a philosophical approach that remains relevant across cultures and generations, one that offers wisdom without didacticism, guidance without rigidity. The golden middle isn't just the key to understanding The Lion King, it's the gift the franchise offers to all who engage with it deeply. A perspective that encourages us to seek harmony rather than dominance, integration rather than elimination, balance rather than extremism. In a world increasingly defined by polarization and binary thinking, what could be more valuable than this nuanced approach to life's challenges? So the next time you watch these beloved films, look beyond the talking animals and catchy songs. Recognize the sophisticated philosophy being articulated through every character design, plot development, and pivotal scene. Appreciate how The Lion King isn't just entertaining us, it's inviting us to embrace the power of balance in our own lives, because ultimately that might be the most profound legacy of this remarkable franchise. Not just its box office success or cultural impact, but its ability to articulate an approach to life that transcends boundaries of age, culture, and time. An approach rooted in the wisdom of finding harmony between opposing forces rather than allowing any single extreme to dominate. What if that's the true circle of life? Not just the ecological cycle, but the perpetual balancing of seemingly contradictory forces into harmonious whole. And what if understanding this principle isn't just the key to appreciating The Lion King, but to navigating our own complex world with greater wisdom?